Have you ever wondered why some people seem so clueless or why people can't really follow and do things as good as you? Have you ever thought, man, somebody just really lacks awareness? Hi, I'm Mary Gervage, and I'm the founder of My Promotion Plan, a company that helps women go from passed over to promoted. And today I want to talk to you about self awareness. Years ago, I really had very little self awareness, and this was evident in so many areas of my life. It is said that if we are not self aware, that we have a tendency to role play in life. And what that looks like is we're a different person depending on which group we're in. So maybe we're one person with our family, one person with our friends, one person with our spouse, one person at work, one person with our acquaintances. Basically, we're all of these different people because we're trying to please people. We're trying to do what others want us to do for them. And we're not being true to our authentic self for some reason. Part of what we need to know is self-awareness. John Maxwell tells us the law of self-awareness says that in order to grow yourself, you first must know yourself. And this is absolutely true. Now, self-awareness, it really covers a multitude of different things. One of the things it covers is our passion and our purpose. So do we know what our passion or our purpose is? Typically, our passion or our purpose, if you haven't identified yours, it usually comes from the things that keep us up at night or the things that our hearts ache for. What are those things that we wish we could make a difference in the world? That's usually where our passion or our purpose comes from. Maybe you've had an obstacle in the past. I know for me, years ago, I was struggling. I got stuck when I was trying to advance in my career. And that's how God showed me what my passion and my purpose was, to help other women advance in their careers. It was something that I struggled with and overcame through my promotion planning process to go from stuck to being made an executive and then a partner. So that could be the same for you. If you've had a struggle in life and now you have a heart for people that have went through those things, that could be your passion or your purpose. That's one part of it. The second thing to know is, what are our strengths and our weaknesses? It's really important for us to have some self-awareness around what we are good at and what we're not good at, especially if we're leading teams. Nothing is worse than having a leader that thinks that they're absolutely great at everything. And it's not that we don't have the ability to learn new skills and do new things, but we should have an understanding of which areas we're weak in. What this does is it actually strengthens our ability to lead, because when we have self-awareness and we are secure in who we are, then we will bring people in around us that are rock stars in those areas where we have weaknesses. And if we will be vulnerable with our weaknesses to our team, then what can happen is they will step in and they will step up and they will cover us in those areas because we have an awareness around it. And they're not having to tiptoe around us on the back end and be like, hey, I'm not sure you're real good at this. For me, that's been writing. And I know I have my book out now, God's Not Done With You. If you haven't picked it up, absolutely highly recommend it. So many wonderful, amazing things in here. We actually talk about self-awareness more in the book. But one of the things I struggled with was writing. I really struggled with writing and grammar, and I struggled since I was a young child with these things. And I could either let these things hold me back, which I did for a long part of my life, but then I realized is that I could enlist others that could help me. And so I would be writing articles for the newsletter, be writing different things at my organization. And even today, I have people help me with my writing. I hired editors to help me with the book. I did the writing, but I have people that can come in and help make it so much better. And when those people were empowered, and when I say, hey, anytime I write something, please take the liberty to fix the grammar, make it more efficient, make it more clear, it just gives them the green light to do their job easier without me having to come back and be like, hey, why are you doing this? Like, I don't have to fight my weakness. I just kind of lean into that, not as in it's something that's going to be a crutch that I can't move past, but something that I can say, hey, I want to hire people around me that are good at writing, because this is going to make my life easier and better. And you can do the same thing in your organization when you know what your weaknesses are. Another area that we really need to understand to have self-awareness is we need to understand what our core values are. So we have core values in organizations, but do we know what our personal values are? What do we stand for? When we don't know what we stand for, we will have a tendency to do that role play thing that we talked about earlier. But what we'll also do is we'll become victims. And I know this happened to me. When I was not very self-aware, I did not really have my own values. Although I was following God and I had these things, I let the fear of others and what others wanted me to do dictate my actions rather than saying, no, that is not within my character. That's not who I am. And so I found myself participating in doing things that were not aligned with who I was. I didn't feel good doing them. I didn't like doing them. But instead of taking a stand for myself and saying, no, I'm not going to do that, or simply not doing it, I took the actions and I allowed myself to be a victim in this moment. I said, well, this is what they said I had to do. They made me do this terrible thing. And I played the victim card. And anytime we play the victim card, we just are like giving our power away. And we don't have to do that. We don't have to give our power away. We can keep our power, and we should keep our power because it's part of who we are. But we have to know what our values are. What are our non-negotiables as a person? Because we are the only ones that can hold true to those. But we need to know what those are. And the last thing is we need to know where our worth comes from, where our value comes from. For me, years ago, I was allowing everybody on the outside of me to tell me how valuable I was. And I would seek this value in all different ways, but I wasn't actually valuing myself. I was allowing others to have that control to say, this is how valuable you are, whether it was in my career, whether it was in my family, any area of my life. I was waiting on others' opinions to dictate how valuable I was. Well, for me, I centered my value, and this is one of the first things, around who God says I am, what God says I am, and what value I have. And for me, that's the highest value because God sent his son to die on the cross to save me, to have a relationship with me, to give me a better future, a hope, a life. And that makes me immensely valuable. And that's where my worth comes from. My worth comes from the Lord now. It doesn't come from these outside things. But before I had awareness over this, I was living this really rocky, crazy life because if things were going good and I was successful, then I would have a high value. If people on the outside weren't valuing me, then I had to kind of transform and change to get to this valuable state. And it's only when we can start to understand where our value comes from, what our core values are, what our strengths and weaknesses are, and what our passion is, that we can become aligned and start to know who we are. Now, one of the things I like to use, and I use this in my organization, and I've done this with my teams in the past, I'm a certified consultant, but the DISC behavioral assessment. It's one of the best assessments out there. It has been around for hundreds of years. And what's so incredible about this is it helps you to understand your behavioral style for thinking, communicating, and acting. And so it covers a lot of different facets. But often, and I know I used to think that we were all the same. My husband and I were just having this conversation about our children where I was saying, like, I used to be this parent that would tell my children how to do every chore. For every chore that we had, there was a way that the chore needed to be done. There was a way that the dishwasher needed to be loaded properly. There was a way to sweep the floor properly. There was a way to clean the bathroom properly. The way to put the groceries away. Every single thing had a particular way to do it. And that was my way, and that was the best way. And I really thought it was the only way at that point in time. And I know that sounds really crazy, but maybe you're thinking that too. But what happened over time is as my kids got older, they actually found it very difficult to be able to do chores without mom saying, do it this way, do it that way, because they had come up to understand that there's a particular way to do it, and we must absolutely do it 100% correctly. Now, this was some faulty parenting that I had back then, but once I started to gain this awareness, I was able to say, okay, the dishes need to be clean. I no longer care how my dishwasher is loaded. but the dishes need to be cleaned. I don't care how the bathroom gets cleaned. I don't care how the laundry gets done, as long as it's done. And I think that's the thing, when we can set this vision, but before we know who we are and how we're acting and how we're communicating and how others are not like us, because we're not the same. We don't all think the same. We don't all act the same. So if you've ever been like pulling your hair out, like, why can't they just get it? Why can't they just do it like I do it? Well, they're not you. They weren't me. And so, but the more self-awareness that we get, the more we can understand others, their actions, their inactions, and the easier it becomes for us to lead people, and the easier it becomes for us to love people unconditionally. But the first step is for us to have awareness around who we are, what we desire, what we want, right? And so I would just encourage you to start this journey if you haven't already. If you're on it, continue it, but dig in and figure out who you are. You can head on over to maryjervich.com/disc, and you will be able to get your disc assessment so you can see what your personality style is. Thank you so much for joining me today. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll get notified when we have new and amazing videos like this to help you advance in your leadership, your career, and in your life. And as always, remember, you are only one plan away from your next promotion.